January meeting of the Scrutiny and Performance Committee. I would like to remind everyone present here this morning that this meeting will be recorded and that the recording will be subsequently made available for public listening. First item on the agenda, Sederunt and Apologies. Apologies for absence.
Chairman, apologies from Councillors Brodie and Dykes. Councillor Crothers will be late, and I've not heard from Councillor Wiper. Does anyone know if he'll be attending?
Can I say, Claire, that we'll put an apology on, as I understand it, he's languishing in sunny Spain.
Ah, well, he never told me that. There are 7 members present.
Yes, indeed. First item on the agenda, unlikely as it may be, I must ask anyone get any declarations of interest in relation to the business here today? I take it silence signifies that no one has. Okay. Third item on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting of the 15th of November 2012. Can I have confirmation, please, that these are deemed to be a correct record of the business transacted? Thanks very much indeed, Jim. Fourth item on the agenda is the scrutiny review scope. This is in relation to procurement and commissioning. This report by the Assistant Chief Executive. Lorna, who's taking this?
I think just an introduction, Liz is going to say a few words about the development of the scope and the information that's included within that.
Thank you. Yes, this is the first of your scrutiny reviews about procurement and commissioning. And I think what we're keen to do today is to make sure that the scope, which is attached as the appendix, captures what you would like to see and how you would like to take it forward and what you're looking for in the scope. You'll see the first section, the purpose and objectives, is lifted from what you agreed at your November meeting. So that was a previous decision, and we've put it into the template which you also agreed as part of the Scrutiny and Performance Handbook. So we've filled in some of the background information for you, and really what we're looking for today is just to go through perhaps section by section to make sure that this is exactly what you want to see and any additional information that you would like to put into this scope.
Thank you. Colleagues, as Liz has said, this template, in my view, certainly does reflect what was agreed and what we've endeavoured to use as a standard template for this work. Anyone any comments to make in relation to any aspects of the template? Ian? Well, if you wish, but I mean, if you, I take it we've all been over the papers, and not only individually but in respect of groups and groupings, and I'm not trying to truncate discussion, but if anyone feels that they're quite happy to move the template as submitted, that would be acceptable. Anyway.
If we'll just do it, I mean, the comments I made was, I think I made it at the workshop. I just think on the first box, purpose and objectives, I know these are agreed. I just touched on state aid as a potential for the third sector organisations, which I fully understand, because day centres brings to mind. In real terms, we commission the day centres to provide service for us. But just to pick up on that point, the next box I didn't have any comments on. Contributors, I did actually spring to mind was South of Scotland Alliance and the South of Scotland Economic Forum as being contributors. I mean, maybe elected members covers that, I don't know. Or should we actually communicate with them directly? And this subject specialist, maybe it would be better there, but I just wondered, well, we've got Scottish Government, Scotland Excel, Legal Advisors, NHS, Procurement, and I wonder if organisations like the Chamber, Commerce Scotland, people like that, are they away from that, but just to bring that point up.
Okay, anyone any comments on the points that Ian has raised? Sorry, Liz?
Just to pick up, we'd actually put the Chambers of Trade and the Federation, etc. in the contributors section. I think we'd seen the subject specialists perhaps as people who might want to come and give the committee some sort of specialist advice about maybe what you're looking for in each of the reviews. But certainly the points about the Chamber and the Federation absolutely will be crucial to this review. So they're certainly captured earlier on.
You happy enough with that response?
Happy enough with that. And see, just the South of Scotland, just to make sure I'm on the right track, because it'll help me for the future. South of Scotland Alliance and South of Scotland Economic Forum as being contributors. Are they, should they be there or not? Just like to take advice on that.
Well,
Happy to add them into the contributors, because although, as you're saying, it's councillors and Scottish Enterprise, but perhaps as an entity they might have a particular view. So yes, that's a good suggestion.
I think we've got to be careful though, to ensure that we strike a balance, because I mean there's always a danger, of course, of finishing up. You can conceivably consult too many people and too many organisations, and I think the trick is striking the balance and obviously consulting with those that need to be consulted. And but the point's taken and it's been reflected and it will be acted upon. Any other comments, Leader?
Just for my own clarity, it's with regard to the bullet point at the bottom of page 9, 26. Commissioning defined as a cycle of activities at a concerned with. Is it just the way I'm reading that?
No, it doesn't make sense, Leader, as far as I'm concerned. It should. My understanding is commissioning defined as a cycle of activities concerned with whole groups. As a way, at least that's what I've put my pen through anyway, and left it at that. Thanks for raising it. I omitted to do so. Any other questions then, or comments, or do we approve the template as submitted? You'll recollect, of course, that the working group that we talked about, well, there were three major issues came up. Clarity in the outcomes that we would want to see from each review was the first one, and secondly was how we would operate and undertake each review. In other words, the nuts and the bolts and the mechanics of it. And then the bigger issue, of course, is what we're undertaking three. What order do we want to take these reviews in and the timescales? As I say, I certainly would have views to express in the last one. My own view, and I'd be interested to hear whether or not colleagues agree, in fact, would be that performance, number 6, but performance indicators for council priorities and commitments. I think if we're really going to get scrutiny and performance management embedded at the very core of this authority, I think it's essential that we focus on that, and without being critical of anyone, I think it's even more imperative, as far as I'm concerned, standing what took place at last week's meeting of the Policy and Resources Committee, where, in my view, the layout of the agenda, the way in which the two performance management reports were dealt with, that's the Chief Executive Services and also CCS, to me, it did not encourage meaningful scrutiny of the important issues which were there. In fact, the second one, the CCS one, got caught up in what I would call, perhaps colloquially, the 1 o'clock shunt. Everybody was sort of desperate, to get out and get some food into them, and that's not the way, in my view, we should be doing business. But I'd be grateful to hear comments on the points I've raised.
I think particularly the last point you bring up a very valid point in regards to kind of if we're to give it meaningful scrutiny, then let's take them first, get them on the head of the agenda. It's something that Jim in particular picked up at the last liaison meeting with we have a weekly liaison meeting with the director of Plan Housing and Environment, Plan Environment, I should say. So it's something, but like I say, responsibility I think lies within the Chief Executive Service. So I agree with entirely. If the 1 o'clock shouldn't mean something different in the building trade.
Never too proud to learn. You can explain that one to me later. Leader?
Chair, I know in discussions with the Chief Executive there was sort of a suggestion that we actually take the performance out of the general committee cycle, and I think it was quarterly or every 4 months put an extra meeting in to actually address the actual performance issues so that you could get a better, as you say, not waiting for, it's lunchtime, let's nod them through, but give them the proper scrutiny they deserve and in a more focused view. So that might be coming up in the next 2 or 3 months, and I think the subcommittee that's been set up to look at committee things would take that on board and put something in place.
Very much obliged. I would like to come back to the issue of the subcommittee, but I'll bring Ted in first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If you're actually suggesting that we should take performance indicators for council priorities and commitments as our first choice, then I'd be happy to support that.
That's much appreciated. Thank you. It's just going back to the point that you raised, Leader, about the subcommittee. I must confess that, last week's meeting, the Policy and Resources Committee was the first that I was aware of it. Now, that may be an information deficit for which I am responsible, but again, looking to Lorna and Liz in particular, I take it the establishment of such a subcommittee, will operate in tandem and not be at odds with the work that we're trying to do here.
I think there's an opportunity not just for the committee but for officers to feed in from each committee between and communicate and report on that basis as well. And if the committee takes a decision to take this review as a priority, then that would work in tandem with the subcommittee.
Chairman, can I just clarify that the subcommittee was agreed at the full council on the 29th of November, membership of 7 on the basis of proportionality. Councillor McCottrey is on that subcommittee. It's meeting on the 12th of February.
Well, we've got at least 2 conduits of information, if I can put it as indelicately as that. Any Leader, you wanted back on that point.
Chair, I don't think it's interfering with our review. It's looking at how best the committees can actually carry out their remits, and I think it's looking more at that line of what do we need to put in place and the sort of delegations to committees and how they operate, rather than actually the scope of the review. So I think they'll work in tandem rather than different roles.
Grateful for that. Let me make it abundantly clear, I wasn't being precious in the slightest, but going back to the point, as I say, if we're now agreeing number 6 essentially as a priority, I think there is an opportunity there for this committee to input into the process, either via, well, hopefully both via Tom and yourself. I don't know whether you'd want to look at the possibility of doing it perhaps even more formally than that, with the mechanism of what a reference from this committee, as it were, to the subcommittee.
I think once this committee starts its review and recommendations to make or wishes to advise anything, I'm sure the individual members will feed that in, but also if they wish the subcommittee to inform them of the work of the Scrutiny Committee, so aware of that.
Well, I personally, colleagues, would like to do the belt and braces, for want of a better term. I have every confidence in both Tom and yourself, Leader, as feeding in, being the conduits, but I would like to think that, as a committee, we would take a more formal approach as well, and make clearer views. Okay, we're back to item 4 on the agenda then. I take it, if there are no further comments, can we go to the recommendations? And we're asked firstly to review the draft scope as detailed in the appendix for the procurement and commissioning scrutiny review, and secondly to agree any amendments or additions. Now, my understanding, in fact, is that there are no proposed amendments or additions. So on that basis, we review and adopt the draft scope. Would that be acceptable? Sorry?
I did make a couple of points, and I think Ivor picked up a couple of these typos or something as well. So.
Can you play sweeper up for us then, Liz? Just exactly, how it's to be amended?
Yeah, just in terms of the contributors that will add in the South of Scotland Alliance and the, I think, formal name Regional Advisory Board of Scottish Enterprise into the contributors, and the tidying up of the language, the typo in the definition of commissioning.
Okay, my apologies for that. Right, on that basis then, can we move to the next? Sorry, Ivan, Leader.
Just in line with the point you put forward of bringing forward the 6th as our priority one, would we then have to change the investigation timetable in the second last box in page 11? Would be expecting performance report coming to our April-May committee, and this one to be at a later committee?
And certainly we can schedule that in. You'll see in terms of the end date, this one's summer 2014, so we can certainly make that make the phasing of the work programme to fit in with that.
Yes, indeed, that would obviously be appropriate. Next item then is item number 5.
How will we actually cover we've got to prioritise, and we've prioritised that as being our first one for review. So will we pick up on all these at the end, or just as we go through?
I think that would be the most appropriate way, that we do pick them up at the end. As I say, we've already agreed that number 6, should be the priority. We can come back, as it were, to sort of looking at second and third priorities and making the relevant adjustments and timescales, etc., in the light of these at that time. Thank you. Item number 5 then is the review scope in relation to training and staff development. And again, you're being asked to review the draft scope as detailed in the appendix and to agree any amendments or additions. Lorna, do you want to?
Just to sort of reflect, this was the objectives agreed by members at previous committee, but also, if you recall, the scope of it was developed based on a suggestion that was much narrower than that. So this looks at training and development across the council, and also looks at the value for money and the optimal use of training and development within the council. Broad focus, I think the initial suggestion that came forward was much narrower than that.
Jim?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Another objective I'd like to put in is possibly looking at the examination of the succession planning within the council, along with the training and staff development.
Anyone, any comments to make on that point? I think there was also an issue which was raised at one of our meetings yesterday in relation to annual appraisals, etc. Anyone wish to develop that? It's not totally in point, but I suppose it's part of the process of ensuring, in fact, that our workforce are best qualified as we can make them and trained to the maximum possible extent. Ian?
I suppose, appraisals for a workforce, I don't know exactly where well with that. I would imagine that would be would meet our performance indicators as far as that's concerned. But see, from an elected member's perspective, what is there in place? Is that a political group decision that should be taken away from? I know, we've a different, speaking from my own political background, we've different options in the past, we've done different things, but I wonder if there's is there anything out there for elected members that's standardised across all 32 local authorities, or how would that normally work?
Can I just clarify in terms of members' own sort of appraisals? Yes, the model that is in place that we have subscribed to and leaders signed up to was the improvement service development through COSLA, and that's the accredited sort of member development scheme. And part of that, there's scope for those individual development reviews and development plans for individual members.
Okay, thanks for that. Yep, I am. I'm actually on that one as well. So I was thinking more from a political point of view then, so which is probably a wee bit away from the council. That's what I'm thinking. The only other thing I picked up, it's a wee bit tenuous, but see, the improvement service is in there, and we'll often get invited to seminars on improvement service. Just to remind me, last time I think we made a decision that if a member wanted to go into an improvement service seminar, they could do that. Is it still the case? Because I've been invited to quite a few lately, and I picked up a lot of kind of good information for the last ones I went to in my last term.
I think in terms of individual member development, if it's part of your own personal development, there's a routine for that through the HR support on an individual basis. If it's more a conference or a particular event, members tend to be through the service committees. But it was an issue that Councillor McCautry raised as part of this review. It wasn't in scope of the discussion you had, but it was an issue about access to training for members. And it may be something you want to consider as part of the scope for this, or out with that.
Can I just add, Chairman, that as part of the standing orders, members are entitled to attend training as part of their personal development programme as an approved duty without reference back to committee. As Assistant Chief Exec said, if it's a conference with no participation, then it has to be approved.
That's helpful, Claire. Thank you. On the issue, of course, of personal development, my own view is it's much better use of resources, in fact, to use external trainers by all means, but do the training in-house where at all possible, and provided, of course, you've got a sufficient number of members who wish to participate. But that's merely an observation. Right. Any other comments in relation to the proposed template then for item number 5? Andy?
Page 17, the trade union contribution, we actually should add in there the Joint Safety Committee because training needs do feature highly in that agenda, and it's no mention here anywhere.
Fair comment, sir. We'll make the necessary adjustments.
Just in, sorry, and one other thing is that how are we monitoring the uptake of the CPD and within, when we drill it right down to the shop floor, for lack of better words, that each and every area is actually doing it. And we've not got that in here because CPD isn't something you can do if you want it. It's something, as a council, we are saying you're doing. So it should be in here as a monitoring scrutiny tool. So how we fit that in, I leave to the Assistant Chief.
Lorna, Liz, do you want to comment on that?
I think these two issues are related really about the PDR, the personal development, the appraisal scheme, and who does training, because that's where you get, that's where you identify what training needs are required through the PDRs and the appraisals, and that would fit in neatly with this scope. But you want to find out how are we identifying training needs, and then are we making sure that they are fulfilled. So I think these two issues are actually the same, that we could build into an additional objective.
Thanks, Liz.
Can I say for the record that I've never made any secret of the fact that, in my opinion, continuing professional development, for elected members should basically be compulsory. For instance, in the same way as various professional organisations stipulate that you must undergo a certain amount each year, and you must sign, in fact, and verify that you have done that. That perhaps that might be viewed in certain quarters as being an imposition in our already busy schedule. So I'm not going to push it. It's merely an observation. Right. Going back to for no other comments, then going back to the recommendations. We have reviewed the draft scope, and we have agreed certain amendments. Can you just again, Liz, gather these up for us for the benefit of the minutes?
Perhaps the wording of the objective could be something around to review the arrangements for identifying training and development needs for members and officers and their fulfilment. Their implementations maybe a bit.
Yeah, that sounds okay. And we've taken in Jim's point about succession planning as well. Okay, on that basis then, can we proceed to item number 6 on the agenda, which is the review scope for performance indicators for council priorities and commitments. Lorna, Liz?
Again, the objectives were agreed at your last meeting, and we have inserted a number of additional pieces of information about the kind of evidence that we've got available to us, who we see to be the contributors, and the timetable, as you see, reflects the fact that we're due to finish by the end of this calendar year. And the reason for that would be that you would then be able to feed in any recommendations into the next business planning cycle.
Thank you. Anyone, any comments in relation to the template here? That's pretty exhaustive, not?
Just to say, Chairman, this is when I read this one, this is the one I could say most excited me, because I just think it is, and you've already picked up on it. I was going to wait till the end that this should be prioritised first. And the contributors, stakeholders, and it's picked up members of the public, which will be council taxpayers, residents and our constituents. That is the most important thing within that box, even though we've all the other contributors there, but they are the ones that we are here to actually serve. And I thought this was a really good. They're all good, but this to me was the one that stood out more than anything, as it's been a really good report.
Gratified by your comments. When you look at the evidence there, though, and various other issues, don't let anyone underestimate the magnitude of this particular remit. It's going to be onerous, not to say challenging. But anyway, I'm sure we're all up for it. On that basis, then, if there are no further comments, can we go back to box 2? We've reviewed draft scope. And we're basically accepting the template and this one as submitted. Would that be a fair comment? Okay, thanks very much. Now, can we go back then, as I say, with priorities for the remaining two to determine, 4 and 5, and also the wider issues that, as I've already alluded to, we've discussed previously. We need maximum clarity in the outcomes that we want to see from each review, and how we'll undertake each review, i.e. the nuts and bolts that I referred to earlier. Can we perhaps deal first of all with the issue of second priority or second ranking priority between 4 and 5? 4, of course, is the procurement commissioning. 5 is training and staff development. Anyone, any comments? Leader.
Chair, I would like to think that we would look at training and staff development as our second, because I think over the next couple of years, with budgets getting tighter and reorganisation, I think we need to make sure that the staff who are there have the fullest opportunity to avail themselves of training, and I think it's up to us to make sure that we have that training and development process in place.
Okay, any other comments? Anyone else otherwise minded? I accept entirely the rationale of what the point you're making, Leader. What I would point out in relation to number 4, of course, is that if we get review, procurement and commissioning in the way in which I'm sure we will, and we're clear on the outcomes that we want from this, I think there's an awful lot of financial benefit, capable of being accrued by the Council as a consequence. I think we've really got to tighten up this whole area of operation. And at the end of the day, my own instinct, notwithstanding what you said, would be perhaps to make this item second priority, as I say, on the basis of potential financial win, financial gain by the authority. But anyone else with any comments? Ian?
I have to admit, Chair, that was similar, very similar thoughts myself. I thought very important that the training of the staff, it's right up there. It's really important, but nobody's really got to lose their job if this review's secondary. But the potential it would have on the local economy, that's what I see as prioritising number 4. It weights it slightly more in favour of taking that review first for me.
Thank you. Andy?
I think we need to be careful here, because we need to make sure that we go into the full review, the procurement and commissioning setup, that the staff that we have in those areas where we commission are actually up to speed. And therefore, those departments are still able to tender or commission services. So it's a chicken and egg we've got here, but I would, my previous life me would tend to say that we need to have a fully functioning operational staff system before we can even commission for some of the services. So effectively, you could be saying, or making it an unfair playing field when it comes to commissioning. So I would tend to want to go with the training and development.
Very interesting indeed. Ted?
Thank you, Chair. Just listening to the viewpoints that have been made, my preference would be to actually look at procurement and commissioning, mainly because I think there are perhaps significant economic advantages in doing that. So thank you for that.
Grateful for your input, sir. Any other comments? We have a diverging views here. Sorry, Jim, my apologies.
I've done the same as Ted and listened to everybody. I can see Councillor Ferguson's point, but if we take item 4 first, if we identify that there are staff that are requiring training to do that through the review of the procurement and commissioning, that would lead us on to item 5.
Thanks for that, Jim. Well, I don't particularly want to divide on it, but I will if I have to. Andy?
Can you not go first equal?
If it helps,
Yes, Liz.
perhaps you don't need to do them necessarily absolutely one after the other. That what you could do is have different aspects of different views throughout the course of your meetings. So, for example, at one meeting you might have a presentation in one aspect of procurement and commissioning and interview witnesses for the training and development one. So you could run them all at the same time, but just we would recognise obviously the priority that you've given to the performance indicators one and focus on that one at the start, but make sure that all 3 are progressed.
I think contemporaneously might be the word, Liz, but never mind. Andy?
I'm quite happy to go in tandem and quite happy for training and development to be in the back seat of the bike.
Yes, that's where the powerhouses normally are.
The back seat of the car, absolutely.
Right, so what we're saying then is that 6 is clearly the first priority, and we will endeavour to take 4 and 5 contemporaneously in tandem, call it what you will, and take it forward that way. Right, going back to the clarity of the outcomes, are we quite clear that our templates that we have approved this morning with amendment in a couple of cases give us the clarity of the outcomes that we're seeking and that we need? Okay. Undertaking each review, the actual nuts and bolts. Can we have the benefit of your advice, ladies, on this one? This is new ground, certainly, as far as we're concerned as a committee.
The intention is that when we have the preparatory workshops with you, we'll talk to you about how do you want to look at a particular aspect of the review. When do you want to interview witnesses? When would you like to have a presentation on something? And the intention is that soon after this committee will give you some background information so you get the chance to do some reading and to start to get to grips with the content of the reviews. And then we'll talk to you about how do you actually want us to start each review. For example, if you are taking the performance indicators one first, when we look at that information, how do you want us to start with that at your March committee? Bring a report to you, give you a presentation, and then schedule in some interviews with the people that you've already identified. So we see it very much as being led by you about how you want us to conduct these, but we'll certainly use the templates to give you some advice and some starting points about that.
If I can add to that, I think members might want to consider about perhaps doing some of the site visits, going and having a look at some other information in terms of constructing the first part of your business. And I think in terms of interviews, it's really evidence sessions in terms of preparing for those kind of questions that you want to ask, the first sets of evidence that you want to bring forward, the people that you want to speak to initially, and us bringing them forward at that next committee, really to sort of kick off your evidence sessions and about understanding the area and also to investigate and follow a line of questioning on that basis. So really trying to work with you over the next short while to make those arrangements in place for the next committee.
Any other comments, observations on what's being said? Can I say from a personal point of view, I thought that the way we operated the last time, we had a business meeting and then we're joined by those members of the committee who could make it. I think that's the way I would like to see us going forward. I think it's more informal, it's more conducive to debate than within the sort of strict parameters of a committee. And I'm not trying to downplay the importance of the committee. This must always be the forum to ratify what we've discussed, what we've come to a tentative agreement on. But I would like to see us, without sort of being flippant, Tom, if we can get the issue of agenda and paper sorted out, as I'm sure we can, I would like to see us, going down that particular route, if at all possible. Is anyone any fundamental difficulty with that? No? Well, okay, can we perhaps proceed as accords in that fashion for the future as well then? Right, anyone any other points they want to raise that we haven't covered? Ian?
Well, we were explicit did we prioritise it through a recommendation at all, or any of them, or we just built it into the minute? How will we actually made that decision?
I think in preparing the minute with the clerk, we'll make sure that we set out those additional decisions by the committee about the order you wish to take the reviews in as well.
And do we feel that on the back of what we've decided that we need to rejig certain of the timescales, or do you want to leave that until later?
The timescales have certainly been developed following on from the preparatory discussion with yourselves and then the officers in the council about perhaps when business cycles or when some key points are for them throughout the calendar year. So if you were agreeable, we would leave the timescales as they are in the scopes, but clearly as you undertake the review, that's something that you might want to keep under consideration.
Is that acceptable? Okay. The next business meeting, Liz, that we could possibly, sort of bolt a wider, meeting of the committee onto. What the date again, please?
We are still waiting just from the central diary to give us confirmation of the February date, but we'll certainly be letting you know as soon as we can.
Could always make it Saturday mornings, and then go to Palmerston in the afternoon, Tom. Right, seriously, if there are no further issues or questions to be raised, can I thank you all for your attendance and your input. I have no further business, and in the circumstances I would bring the meeting to a close. Thank you.